Welcome to this IT Nation presentation. Thank you so much for joining. My name's Jeff Fisher, VP of Strategy here at Venn, and today we're going to talk to you about the security workaround paradox. A little bit about myself before we start. I consider myself both a VDI historian and futurist. I've been in and around end user computing my entire career, having spent time at companies like Citrix and Microsoft, also at a number of startups, Softricity, Desktone, and Hysolate, as well as mid-sized companies like RES Software, and where I am now VP of Strategy at Venn. So across all industries, we are undergoing a tectonic shift in where and how work gets done. I think that is clear to everyone. The point's been made many, many times since the pandemic started, and it's crystal clear. You see it every day in the news, companies like Amazon talking about employees never coming back to the office. So this is really a fundamental shift in the way we work, and it's a permanent change. And of course, we're seeing it play out clearly in the trends that are happening now, and a lot of the backing data that we see for those trends. So for example, what we see here at Venn is something we call the IT Wild West, which is really something that's happening out of the combination of BYOD, SaaS, and mobile devices, and people really having to access, employees having to access data and applications from anywhere. So combine that with the post-pandemic hybrid workplace, and we're seeing some shocking statistics. The fact that more than 50% of new work from home employees are using their own personal computers to get work done. And the fact that at the same time, lots of employees are saying that their employer doesn't provide the right kind of protection to secure those devices. Ransomware and cyber threats are daily happening, always in the news, shocking really the rate and the pace at which these are increasing, but also the nuances within those trends. Specifically, the fact that 1/3 of security breaches this year will be caused by insider threats. And so that's something that all companies have to deal with. Employees who are exfiltrating data, taking valuable and sensitive customer and client data with them before leaving a job. And then last but not least, the growing concern that employees have as individuals about their privacy. And so new changes coming in regulations. And the fact that companies like Gartner research bear out the fact that 50% of employees trust their organization with their personal data. It's a real issue in the era of big tech. And it's not only for individuals as individuals, but individuals as employees. So the bottom line is companies that must control access to sensitive apps and data are having a very difficult challenge. And I would argue that all companies and all organizations have that responsibility. We are fully digitized today in the world economy, from the smallest businesses on Main Street to the largest big tech companies on the planet. Everyone is dealing with personal information, PII, managing credit cards and transactions, and as a result are dealing with sensitive customer and confidential data. So then we sort of look at a broad spectrum of how applications and data have been delivered to employees traditionally. On one end, we still see very widespread the use of what we'll call unrestricted local access. Even more so now, I'd say, with the pandemic, where because of the need to keep remote employees productive and to want to provide them with a great experience, there is minimal insecurity and compliance that is being put in place. And so that does create a highly productive environment, but one where there is very little protection. On the flip side, there are companies in specific verticals like financial services, healthcare, government, who have traditionally had to use very stringent security solutions And in those cases, those solutions like virtual desktops sometimes provide very sluggish performance and impact user productivity. And the users consider that security, that level of security, to be onerous and really impacts their work and their ability to get their job done. It's not just virtual desktops. We see this in other examples like legacy VPN technology, mobile device management technology. Employees view these solutions as very overbearing in terms of how they impact their daily lives. So everyone's got their least favorite IT security things. I thought I'd sort of think back a little bit about mine. So here's a little trip down memory lane. Hardware tokens were in effect and were used when I was at Citrix in the early 2000s. And yeah, they provided great security, but boy, were they a pain. You're always looking for your token, making sure that you traveled with it, waiting for that pin to refresh. And so that was really kind of annoying, although secure. The next iteration of that, I guess, were the smart cards that I used at Microsoft, which required a smart card reader. So, of course, if you didn't have one built into your laptop, your desktop, you had to plug one in via USB port and then put that card in so you could get access to the MS IT environment through a VPN solution. And it was secure, but it was a pain. So the good news is a lot of that technology has been virtualized and abstracted into MFA solutions that run through apps on your smartphone. But strong passwords are still alive and well and becoming more and more important due to breaches. And, human beings are just not wired for them. So everybody writes them down, puts them in a notes file on their mobile device or puts them on a sticky note. Or what have you. And until we get to this future passwordless world we're trying to get to, strong passwords are a reality of life. And I don't know anybody who really likes them. Reminds me a little bit of one of my favorite Dilberts about experts saying that lazy employees are the best because they know how to find shortcuts. I think shortcuts are just a human thing. And really at work, I think they're nothing more than, well-intentioned employees, in most cases, trying to be efficient at their job, get their job done quickly, without having to, deal with a lot of experience challenges. And so we can poke fun at it all we want, but really, shortcuts or workarounds, they're part of human nature. So I thought we'd take a quick look at some examples outside of the IT realm of human shortcuts. You probably haven't ever really thought much about what are known as desire paths, but based on this photo, you probably know what they are now, which is, people basically not following instructions very often and walking across a lawn to get from point A to point B in the shortest amount of time. And so, again, not necessarily malicious intent, but really just trying to make life easier. From more of an information security perspective, or really a physical security perspective, for those of you who have worked in that area, you'll know what tailgating is all about. Again, not something that the average person thinks about, but people following behind other people through doors that require a badge. Yes, there are people who abuse that and use that for malintent and criminal purposes, but most people do it because no one wants to swipe their badge, and their employee walked in before them, or they're with their employee coming back from lunch, and they simply want to re-enter that secure facility. And then, of course, last but not least, and my favorite, whenever you want a great example and something to lighten the mood, you can always rely on Larry David and a scene from Curb Your Enthusiasm. Hopefully some of you have seen this one. If you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's the famous chat and cut, where this lovely blonde woman who wants to do nothing more than cut the buffet line, really sort of pretends like she has a relationship with this gentleman on the right, who, after Larry calls it out and inquires, admits that he doesn't really remember her from the event she says they met at, and that she in fact executed a well done chat and cut. So again, really just all about human nature. So shifting gears back to the IT world, I dub this all of what we're talking about really is part and parcel of something we call the ancient IT paradox. This is a little bit of a mind teaser or twister. So try to focus on it. In order to keep users productive, you must keep them protected. But to keep them protected, you must keep them productive. And again, there is some deep meaning in this, but what it really comes down to is something that we call here at Venn the security workaround paradox. And it's pretty simple when you break it down. The more security protocols that you put in place as IT or as an MSP or as specifically the CISO or IT security, the more the employee digital experience will suffer, and the more your users will try to find workarounds, which unfortunately will undermine compliance, not because they're being malicious or trying to break the rules, but simply because they want to get their job done in the most efficient fashion. And this problem is getting worse, clearly. Remote working, the hybrid environment after the pandemic, the fact that people have so many more devices, lots of personal devices today, this whole new notion of work-life toggling, which we'll talk a little bit more about, and what that means in the post-pandemic world. New apps, a heavy, unprecedented dependency on video conferencing, the more privacy concerns that the average employee has, more regulations, not only in specific industries like financial services, but also around cybersecurity, leading to more and more workarounds. And this is not just anecdotal. We have specific fresh research and data that we've done here at Venn very recently in conjunction with Harris. We ran a poll that bared out the fact that about 71% of employed Americans have done something to get around their company's IT policy, just really to be more productive and efficient at their job. And that obviously is a pretty substantial number. So if we look at things from a more sort of solution-oriented or technically oriented perspective, we'll see the fact that these traditional or the more traditional onerous security solutions, whether it's a sort of a legacy VPN or traditional VDI solution, these things too are becoming legacy. And that's really more of a fact of the transition to cloud and to mobile and to SaaS, and the fact that a lot of these solutions just don't make sense anymore because of the way applications are architected, the way IT is hosted in a hyperscale cloud. Having a legacy VDI solution on-prem or a VPN solution that runs through some sort of traditional on-prem appliance just does not make sense. I also thought it'd be fun to talk a little bit about some of the famous IT security workarounds to really sort of, again, put some specificity around what we're talking about. So the first and probably the most concerning is what I call the D&D, or the drag and drop, which is the fact that it is rather easy today for employees to literally go into a company file share or store and grab tons of files, tons of folders with sensitive company and client and firm data, and drag those across to their desktop, where they will then live locally or could be pushed very easily to a personal cloud file repository like a OneDrive or a G Drive. That's scary. I mean, that is literally data exfiltration on a massive scale. And it is probably happening as we speak by some employee who is simply getting ready to leave a job and wants to take important, valuable information with them that will help them with their next job. There's also the C&V, the cut and paste, which of course can be used at the file and folder level, but also can be used within sort of the data realm, where users can go into sensitive solutions, CRM solutions, support solutions, and literally cut customer information out and paste it. So the clipboard, while it is so functional and keeps us all super productive, it is a very dangerous route for data exfiltration. And then last but not least, when all else fails and everything is locked down properly, the famous PS or the print screen. And the fact that it's just so easy to screenshot either on a desktop OS or a mobile OS, and very difficult to defend and protect against that type of workaround. So how do we get out of this loop? How do we get off of this treadmill? It's just such a challenge, and it has been for a very long time, but clearly a lot has changed, and something's got to give. We can't stay on this hamster wheel forever. So at Venn, we believe that it's really about putting the user first. And I know when I say that, it sounds cliched, and we're not the first vendor to talk about that. But when we say that, we're really talking about the fact that the only way to stop this unending cycle is to ensure and to provide users with a work experience, a digital work experience that is as good, if not better, than what they're used to in their personal life, using their personal devices, personal modern applications, cloud-based solutions that they really just enjoy and that have become the norm. And until we do that and provide zero friction and really provide an authentic work experience that's fast, familiar, and flexible, users will continue to find workarounds simply to make things easier for themselves. And what is it specifically that users want? Well, first and foremost, I think they want location and device freedom. Post-pandemic, they want to be able to work from anywhere, and they're being asked to work from anywhere, and they want to be able to work from any of their devices. And users have an amazing array of devices at their disposal. I mean, I know probably I'm not sort of the average user, but sitting in front of me today, I've got my Mac Mini, I've got my Dell laptop, I've got a Surface laptop, I've got my iOS iPad and iPhone. And I do at times want to be able to work and be productive at work with any of those devices. The expectations around modern experience and performance are really just, again, growing rapidly. 8K video, HDR, multiple monitors, peripherals, modern peripherals, microphones, headphones. People want to be able to use these devices, and they just want them to work. They don't want to have to do any sort of special configuration because of the way something's architected or delivered through the solution that their company is using. And then last but not least, work-life toggling, which now, again, post-pandemic has just become, totally different, right? Everybody's working from home, working remotely, constantly throughout the day having to shift gears between dealing with their kids, dealing with their parents, dealing with personal issues, all of which, or many of which are done through digital platforms, and then quickly switching back to work and making sure that that line is very specific and clear, that this is work and this is personal. Yes, I'm multitasking, and yes, I'm moving sort of seamlessly throughout, but I don't want my work stuff in my personal digital world, and I don't want my personal stuff in my work digital environment. So we believe that really that local work demands local solutions. We need to get away from solutions that are dependent, even if it's for security and compliance purposes, on traditional on-premises VDI or desktop as a service solutions running in the cloud. because we've got to empower users to work locally. That's the way they expect to work. And leveraging the power and flexibility of modern devices, desktops, laptops, tablets, and smartphones, as well as the local browser, desktop, and mobile-based applications that run on those devices. And that really is the only way to eliminate the compatibility and performance issues that have become associated with traditional VDI solutions. So the future is local. The future is here and it's local. And really this new reality requires that you as an MSP or a member of your IT team or a member of your InfoSec team, it's really a Sisyphean task of trying to repurpose some of these legacy solutions, whether they're VDI or VPN or MDM, to deal with challenges and configurations and scenarios that they were never intended for. But the bottom line is the only way to overcome the security workaround paradox is to empower users to work locally. So you really have two choices. You either re-architect those solutions that you have to work in a local configuration, or you need some new technology. You need a new solution. So my recommendation to you, stop being Sisyphus and really start wowing your users. Focus on that next-gen architecture where everything runs locally, where it is safe and secure and compliant for the business, but where it really wows the user and blows them away to the point where they're not going to look for a workaround. They have no interest in trying to find a shortcut because they love the experience and they're happy to work the way you want them to work. So thanks so much for joining the session. I hope it was worthwhile. I hope you gleaned some valuable information, and I wish you a great show. Enjoy the rest of IT Nation. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at the email listed here or look me up on LinkedIn. Otherwise, hopefully we'll get a chance to meet someday soon. And again, enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you.